Today I'm joined by Andrew Roy, who is the general manager at Mahogany Prime Steakhouse in Omaha, Nebraska. Andrew has 20 years of experience working his way up through multiple positions within the restaurant business. And today we're going to focus on what his biggest issue is, current problem. Again, he's focusing on, similar to last week, driving sales. Take a different approach this time and really start to dive into who he is as a leader, what he knows about his business. And you're going to see him go from being in this vulnerable place, an honest place of really not knowing how he can drive sales on Sundays and Mondays, to us brainstorming many things that have worked for him in the past and specifically what areas of the restaurant he wants to grow business. And then having him come out on the other side, understanding that where the real opportunity is providing value, even more value to the guests. They've got a very successful restaurant. They're doing really, really well. It's a very successful restaurant group, but he's just looking at how they can continue to grow and get better, because growth and consistency are their core values that are really, really important to him. So again, as you're listening to this, think about some clarity and focus that you can gain in your own restaurant and some things that you can take away from Andrew and I's conversation. Welcome to the Restaurant Leadership Podcast, the show where restaurant leaders learn tools, tactics, and habits from the world's greatest operators. I'm your host, Kristen Marvin, with Solutions by Kristen. I've spent the last 2 decades in the restaurant industry and now partner with restaurant owners to develop their leaders and scale their businesses through powerful one-on-one coaching, group coaching, and leadership workshops. This show is complete with episodes around coaching, leadership development, and interviews with powerful industry leaders. You can now engage with me on the show and share topics you'd like to hear about, leadership lessons you want to learn, and any feedback you have. Simply click the link at the top of the show notes and I will give you a shout out on a future episode. Thanks so much for listening, and I look forward to connecting. Running an independent restaurant is no joke. You're doing it all. Managing your team, maintaining quality, keeping things safe, and the back of the house can sometimes feel like organized chaos. That's where Restaurant Technology steps in. They've created a system called Total Oil Management that helps take one big job off your plate, managing cooking oil. No more lugging jugs of oil or dealing with dangerous spills. Their system does 4 things for you: delivers fresh oil automatically, removes used oil safely, no mess, no stress, helps your team stay safe and your food consistent, and even turns your used oil into biofuel, which is pretty cool. Thousands of independents across the country are already using it to cut costs, save time, and make their kitchens run smoother. If you're curious about this and want to learn more about how it could work in your space, visit go.rti-inc.com/restaurant leadership podcast. Again, that's go.rti-inc.com/restaurant leadership podcast. Andrew, thanks for joining me for a coaching session today on the podcast. Really, really appreciate it. How can I make this an extraordinary conversation for you today?
So I was just interested. I wanted to see if you could help me with my current problem, and we could probably talk a little bit about the restaurant and just get into some of the details, but I definitely could use a little advice with one thing I'm facing.
Okay. What's your biggest challenge right now?
So at the moment, sales are decent, but we are struggling Sunday, Monday. Both days, I work in a steakhouse, so neither of those days are typical go out and celebrate, have big meal days. Sunday, obviously, is usually more of a family day, and Monday, just start of the week. We just, if we can fill those days a little more, I think our just whole business and our whole outlook for the future really does dramatically change.
Yeah. Have Sunday and Monday sales always been down?
Usually, yeah. So typical, and we grow, and some days are more or less, but typical mid weekdays are between 15 20,000. Weekends 25 to 30, but Sunday Monday it's always about 10, and then it really hurts sometimes when it's like 8. Yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah.
and what is it about this moment right now that is showing you or presenting a challenge that Sunday and Monday sales are an issue for you at this moment?
Uh, well, they've always been less than the rest of the week. Um, I guess to give some of the background, so Mahogany Prime Steakhouse where I work, we recently moved locations uh, directly across the street, and it was just a newer and kind of improved building. And that first year since we moved, there's excitement with the new building. So, you know, rising tides, all ships are lifted. So we saw a lift even in those sort of edge days. But now that it's been almost exactly a year, things are starting to level out to where we kind of assume they will be for the future. And with that pullback, you're looking at every penny you can here and there. So all of a sudden, if you take a few thousand off each day, Monday and Sunday look like the prime targets.
Yeah, yeah. So they're kind of rearing their ugly head a little bit of as here's the biggest opportunity for us to make an
Yeah.
impact in the business. Okay.
And
You've
then,
been
of
in the,
course, the
go ahead.
people that work in some of our strongest employees, because they're slow, they're trying not to work those. So you have this vicious cycle of less people work them. And if you have less staff, then you can take less reservations. And it just
Yeah.
kind of spirals down from there.
And I would assume that because the volume is down, that you're probably not getting your key people saying, I want to work those shifts to increase that check average.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've been in the business for 20 years. You started right as a dishwasher, worked your way up to GM, right?
I have. I just wanted to make sure it was said not with the same restaurant. So I
Sure,
moved
sure.
here, but
Yeah,
yes.
but you've been in the industry for a long time. You've seen a lot. You've been through a lot. You've overcome some pretty crazy challenges, I'm sure, over the course of those 20 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, for sure. I was at a place called Smokin' Joe's Bar and Grill when I was a kid, and
Mhm.
I was the dishwasher, the cook, and the waiter when I worked on those slow Monday, Tuesday shifts. Give you an idea of how small the space it was.
Yeah.
So, long way from there.
If you are feeling the pressure of rising costs and staffing shortages or supply chain chaos, you are not alone. The truth is, the economic forecast may be shifting, but your restaurant still needs to keep moving forward. That's why I'm headed to the 2025 National Restaurant Association show happening May 17th through the 20th in Chicago. This show is built for operators like you, offering real solutions for real challenges, from cost-saving equipment to strategies for navigating today's tough labor market. Plus, you'll get access to cutting-edge technology, menu innovation, and expert-led sessions that'll help you stay resilient no matter what the market throws your way. And I'll be there, and I'd love to see you too. Here's a bonus for you too. Use my promo code Kristen25 at checkout and get $25 off your Expo Show badge. All you have to do is go to nationalrestaurantshow.com to register and grab your ticket. Don't wait though, because this offer expires May 9th. The 2025 show is where the future of food service comes to life. Don't miss it, and I hope to see you there. What's one of the biggest challenges that you've overcome over the last 20 years as a leader?
Ooh, biggest challenge. You know, I honestly think during COVID, I was the kitchen manager at the same concept, just a different location. And that was probably one of the craziest things I've ever experienced.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Say more.
yeah, just the uncertainty of the entirety of the whole experience. It, from day to day, we didn't know if we were going to close at first. And then it became clear we were going to close. And, you know, the inability to give clear and, you know, complete information because we didn't have it either was definitely a challenge. So, balancing that act of being upfront and communicating with our team with also just the uncertainty of, I don't know if I'll have a job in a month.
Yeah. Yeah. How did you navigate that uncertainty as a leader, as the KM, knowing that you were responsible for everybody?
Yeah. I think the first word that came to mind was vulnerability. I'm not one who is afraid to say I don't know. And I definitely had to say that several times. And then just being honest, if I was telling people, I can't guarantee that we'll come back, but I know that if we do, that you're coming back with us and we'll have a position for you always as long as we do survive this challenge.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was a very clear answer.
No,
honestly.
that's great. No, it's beautiful. So you chose to show up vulnerably and you were honest with your team. And I love that you said you're not afraid to say, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
a very
I think it was the
powerful
time
leadership trait.
we look back 5 years ago, none of us knew. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did that vulnerability impact your role as a leader?
Well, I definitely think that there is a sense people can tell when you're not being upfront and honest with them. So I think I did get a lot of respect from the different people on the line going through that. I think there are a lot of people who won't say, I don't know. And if you can't say, I don't know, how can you trust any of the things you're saying, kind of? You have to be willing to admit the gray areas, especially when it's very obvious that things are uncertain in the atmosphere.
How did you see your staff react when you started leading by example in that way and just showing up vulnerably and honestly?
I mean, it was the time we were all living through a little bit of fear, but I think that there was also this acceptance that things were happening and, no one can guarantee, but there was a future. There was kind of a way out of it. And if things did come back, that they would come back and come back better.
Yeah. Yeah. What don't you know right now with your current situation of sales being down on Sundays and Mondays?
What don't I know? How to fix it. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a silly answer, but that's the first thing I thought of.
Yeah. What else?
Was there a direction you were thinking about with that?
Or? No, just kind of diving deep. It's what we do.
Yeah.
What else don't you know?
What else don't I know? Yeah, I'm drawing a blank there. I don't know if there's an avenue you're asking about. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Don't apologize. Yeah. There's a lot of uncertainty right now. There's a lot of fear right now in the economy, in the restaurant scene, and in industries everywhere. You said you struggled with not having clear information during the pandemic to help you guide your decision making. How can you use and gain clear information right now to help you figure out what you don't know?
I think I kind of see what you're saying. So let me see if I can say it back. So essentially, I'm facing a similar situation to one I faced 5 years ago, but it's just kind of a micro example of that.
Yeah.
Where, things have pulled back. We're a little uncertain on the financial markets. As a steakhouse, that's a big part of our clientele. So how can I look around the restaurant in our current scene and see, in what ways can I deal with this situation that mirror how I dealt with COVID? Is that kind of where you're getting at? Or?
Yeah. How can you use facts right now and data to replace the fear and uncertainty of what's happening?
Sure. So I guess if I could show up with my staff and say, like, we do a pre-shift meeting every day at 4:45. As we go through the open table reservations, say something along the lines of like, I know this isn't Saturday on Sunday. We don't have 200 covers. We have 40 or 50. Um, but, well, I'm sorry. I'm trying to think through that.
No, take your time.
I think there's also a value in looking around at the other restaurants in town. I'm sure that there are places that they're doing 20 to 30 covers at night. So, you know, even though it's pulled back from what we kind of got used to over the last year, I always think there's a value in saying it's not as bad as it could be. We still do have these people coming in. We still do have awesome food and this awesome service. And, let's control the things we can control within our own four walls and just make sure and focus on getting hot food to the guests and let the macro environment of the outside world sort of take care of itself.
Yeah. Who are those people that come in on Sundays and Mondays?
It's a mix. Most nights it is about 40 to 50% the people we see every day, and then travelers. So we have a bunch of people being right in the middle of the country. A lot of people fly through Omaha and come through here on their way to other places.
Yeah.
So we see a lot of our regulars, especially at the bar top. A lot of the people that we have that we consider our regulars come in during the week for business meals. And so we get a lot more of their family and sort of light dining on those Sundays.
Yeah.
And then the Mondays are usually to stop in for a quick drink on the way home. Monday after the weekend, usually people are a little more stressed and a little more run down than the rest of the week.
I mean, it sounds like you've got a really great mix of regulars and first-time diners.
Yeah. That is a nice part about working at a steakhouse where people land and search where's a great steak.
Yeah.
We also have an ad at the airport, so that helps.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
What are your regulars looking for from an experience standpoint when they come into Mahogany?
Yeah. One of the things that we really focus on, I think one of our competitive advantages is consistency. That's one of our core values. And so our motto is to consistently exceed our guest expectations. So we're always looking for ways to make sure, every time you come in, when you're getting that 8-ounce filet, it's going to be prepared perfectly, seasoned perfectly. And it doesn't matter if it's Tuesday or Sunday, 5 o'clock or 9:30, you'll get the same thing in the same way with same high quality service.
Yeah. And what are the first time guests looking for?
First time guests looking for usually celebration. We're a lot of them come to us. We get a lot of our first time guests on anniversary, birthdays, and then business travel. So that's awesome. I think a lot of them are looking for just out of the park steak.
Yeah. What do you know about business travelers when they dine?
I don't know if this is what you're looking for, but usually by themselves, usually looking for, a decent cut of meat, usually looking for a good, strong, like whiskey cocktail. That's kind of our bread and butter.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Business travelers tend to spend a significant amount of more money when they come in to dine because they're usually not using their own money. Right?
That is true. That is true. There's a pro and a con to that. The pro is we stay busy when they're in town, and the con is we have to send out a lot of receipts to get reconciled. So when people forget them.
I love that. That's a good problem to have.
Yeah. No, I'd take worse problems.
You mentioned consistency being one of your core values. What are your other core values?
So consistency is the main one when it comes to our service and our guests. Internally, with our staff, one of the big ones is growth. So we do aim to, about say it usually works out to about 30-40% across all of our concepts of promoting from within. So for my store, for instance, our current private dining coordinator started as a host at another Mahogany. Our bar manager was a bartender back in the day. And actually, I got hired back in the day as a server when I moved to Oklahoma. So
Nice.
they're always looking to let people grow and learn new things and try new things.
Love it. Where would you rate consistency right now on a scale of 1 to 10? If 10 was it was showing up every single day in the restaurant, in the experience, in the food, with the staff, and 1 was it's not showing up very well at all. How would you rate that?
I would say if it is between the hours of 5:30 and 9, 8. I say it that way because one of the things that I always fear and I see, like 5 to 5:30 right at the beginning when it's slow, or late at night right at the end, I give it like a 6. And it's when things start slowing down that we notice the mistakes start happening.
Yeah. It's always been that way, hasn't it?
Oh yeah.
Every restaurant I've worked in.
Yeah. But
What?
hey, 8's not too bad.
It's not. It's not
Yeah.
bad. What would a 9 look like for you in the restaurant?
You know, I think we're on track to get it up to a 9. Last year in around October, maybe September, our head kitchen manager he actually left to go back to Oklahoma. He has some family down there.
Mhm.
So we promoted from within another gentleman who's been doing a really fantastic job. It's the first time he's run a full-on like head of kitchen, so there's a pretty steep learning curve over the holiday season, but he's definitely starting to get a handle on a lot of those systems down there. And then my head of training is all of our managers. We cross-train them in the kitchen, and so he's been back there for the last 2 months. So he'll be coming out soon. He's a very passionate guy. Came to us from California. His attention to detail and service really elevates things. So we've missed having him on the floor, but
That's great.
we do like to have every manager cross-trained in the kitchen because it helps.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. We're taking a quick break to offer you an exciting opportunity. If you're a restaurant owner or manager looking to enhance your leadership skills, I invite you to join my 12-day leadership challenge. In just 12 days, you'll receive a guided packet with actionable strategies to transform your leadership in less than 5 minutes a day. Join the challenge and the community and grab your copy at kristenmarvin.com/12 days. Now let's get back to the show. How would you rate growth right now on a scale of 1 to 10?
Cool. This might be a longer answer, but I feel like I have to explain this here. 1 to 10, I'm going to give it a 6. So if I were looking at like 3 to 5 year outlook, I'd probably say 8. If I'm looking just at this week versus last year, like a 3. So the move across the Dodge to where we are now, that definitely did increase things and improve things greatly. We expanded space, definitely streamlined how many people we could serve at one time, expanded the kitchen, expanded our capacity. So that first year, we did see pretty much month over month, always 10 to 20% growth, if not more. Now, with everything happening in the economy and with the stock market, plus this is like we were right in the middle of the week when we opened last year. It looks rough.
Yeah.
Where if you look 2 years ago, we're still growing, but like, oh, this hurts.
Yeah.
But where we moved because it's a new area that's being developed. It used to be farmland, and they're actually putting different stores. In the summer, they're opening up some apartments, and then they'll have some houses opening over the course of the year, hotel opening. So I think 3 to 5 years, it's going to be jamming, but that's 3 to 5 years from now. So.
Yeah. So you're at a 6 right now. What would it look like for you to be at an 8?
I think for us to be at an 8 during the week, I'd want to see the bar more full. And for Monday and Tuesday, we have a side room that we call the Grand Room. It holds 9 tables. We book it out for private events. And most Sundays, Mondays, we don't have enough business. We end up closing that room. And so I think getting that room open or just having the capacity to where we could fill that that's where I'd want to be.
Okay. So we've started this conversation with sales are down Sunday, Monday, not sure where to go, what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And now you've been able to distill it down to say you want more business in the bar and you want more business in private dining.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's fair to say.
Does your staff know that you have these growth goals?
I would say, yes and no. Do they know in an abstract sense that I want us to grow and make more money and make them more money? Yes. Do they know specifically I want Monday and Sunday to be better and the bar to be full during the week? Actually, the bartenders do know that's my goal. But the Sunday, Monday, the side rooms, I don't think I've ever said that part out loud explicitly.
How can you empower them to help drive those sales?
I think, and this may not be exactly what you're looking for, but I think I might actually approach this in the way of, instead of empowering them there, it might be more of a painting the picture of the future that I see and just making sure not to give up on these days before we get to that future. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Creating a vision for them and then they'll follow.
Yeah. Like, just know, there is a virtuous cycle where if I have this many servers who are able to work on Sundays, Mondays, we can take more reservations, which also allows you to make more money and kind of feeds into itself. But if everyone wants off, then we kind of have to make sure we don't overtake reservations,
Yeah. What impact would that have on the business, or could it have on the business?
Oh, man. Well, if you think about, even simple numbers, let's say an extra 5,000 a week. In a month, that's 20 grand. That's money,
Yeah. How many guests is that per shift?
We usually will, and it's kind of a back of napkin math. I figured that most people spend about $100, and that allows for the business dinners where it's more extravagant versus bar guests who sometimes it is just like an appetizer and one drink. So it is about 50 people coming through per week.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Is there opportunity to also create those sales from existing guests?
Oh, sure. There is something we have talked about. We kind of played around with the idea of doing a discounted wine day on Sunday, Monday, just to see if people might be interested and see if that might be something they'd be interested in. We're thinking about like 10 or 20% off all bottles on the list.
Mm-hmm. Do you have an email list?
We do have an email list. Yeah.
Have you used that before to drive events and do promotions and things like that?
We do. We don't try. We want to respect people's inboxes, so we send out an email usually about once every 2 months. Nothing crazy, and it's usually for special events around holidays.
Mm-hmm.
We have during COVID, it was a little more frequent because we had a lot of to-go features. But now it's usually like, not doing anything for Mother's Day. Book your table now. That sort of thing.
Does it work?
It does. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. You seem a little unsure.
Well, there's always that I'm a big believer in keeping my inbox very clean. So
yeah,
I don't like, I am subscribed to a lot of the local restaurants. And so there are definitely some restaurants that handle it very well. And there are definitely some restaurants that have ended up in my junk folder. So
yeah. What if those guests were just waiting for an invitation from you to come in and have an experience?
Yeah. I mean, we have also talked about the possibility of doing wine dinners too.
Hmm.
Uh, Getting a rep or winemaker, wine owner in and selling tickets along that way. I feel like I'm trying to think of how to articulate. You know, we've always wanted to be a value added place, so we always want to go above and beyond, but not just discount or not just ask for the reservation, but also like have something to give back, if that makes sense.
Yeah, create that experience.
Yeah,
Think
yeah.
about the lifetime value of
Hmm.
the guest. Love that. So how is what's an example of something that you could add value to?
Um, I may need clarification. I may not
Yeah,
have.
like when you're talking about these wine dinners, private events, how could you add value?
Um, well, I think, yeah. Let me say the first thing that I'm thinking, and maybe I'm
Yeah.
just misunderstanding the
And
question.
Andrew, I'm just going to interrupt you for a second. I'm never looking for anything. I'm just helping ask you some really powerful questions to get you thinking differently about your business. That's what we
Oh,
do.
sure.
So don't
Uh,
feel any pressure that I'm trying to lead you somewhere. I'm just asking.
no, yeah. Well, I would say even just having the wine dinners would be offering value because
Yeah.
at the moment we just have. I mean, I say just have, but it's a really fantastic steak meal. But that's all we are offering. So having something that's more of an experience
Yeah.
as dinner too, kind of
Those
an option.
yeah, there's more to those wine dinners than just the wine and the food, right?
Yeah, yeah. There's also the experience of getting to meet someone in connection with the winery that you may either love or may not know, but are getting to know.
Mhm.
The One of the reasons that I'm very interested in doing it, it's we would sell the tickets to our guests that come in, the regulars that we see and love all the time. So it's an option, it's an opportunity for my managers and me to get to interact with our guests more fully and get to know them and see what they're interested in.
Yeah. There's also an educational component to those too, right? And there's a community aspect
Yeah.
that's built by getting a group of people together that love wine and love learning about wine,
Mhm.
right? Your own little like wine club.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. And get to say, hey, I went to this wine dinner at Mahogany.
Yeah,
That's kind of a cool sound.
absolutely. Does your staff, every single person on your staff, know how to talk about private events, what you do, how someone would go about booking, who to talk to in the restaurant?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Good, good.
um, we because we have such a built out private events system. We have one main like director of private dining, and she handles everything. She has some assistants. We have a training packet. It's a whole thing because on an April maybe we'll have for the whole month 40, 50 events. We have four different rooms for private dining, but in December we have every room booked out. I looked yesterday, about half the rooms are booked out already, and some of them will book early and late, so you only get 2 hour time slot, but that way you don't have to pay the full minimum and room
Hmm.
rental fee and everything. So
Awesome.
yeah, with that, we kind of they have to know. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And so if you booked a wine event, do you feel like your team would be really excited about it and be helping you sell it to the guests
I,
that are coming in the restaurant?
I do think so. Yeah. So
Awesome. Awesome.
we're gonna give it a shot. So.
There's a friend of mine on LinkedIn posted a couple days ago. This is pretty timely to what we're talking about, but was talking about the importance of booking private events and said
Mhm.
that a guest had come into his friend's restaurant, asked the server about private events. They weren't sure what to say or how to talk about their offerings or the menu or connect them with the manager or somebody that could come over to the table and be a little bit more well versed. And they ended up going across the street and booking a private event to the tune of $50,000.
Yeah. You only get one chance.
Yeah. What are you? What's one action item that you'd like to take away from this conversation today?
You know, I do think when I'm going through and trying to put together our next wine dinner, because we haven't done one with this new location, we haven't done one since I moved up here.
Mm.
I do think that, and this isn't really, this isn't an action item, but what you said about providing value, I think I am going to hold on to that because I thought that was a nice frame to look at this through. Um, but that's just a state of mind. Action item, I do think that when we were talking about, how we can get the staff on board and how they could help grow Sunday, Monday, I do think in pre-shift, we do need to discuss keeping the faith and, making sure they know we see that it's slow, but we think it can grow, and we want to make sure that everyone kind of stays on board and knows we're trying to look out for them and we have a vision of the future. So, yeah, I'll stay with that.
How can you take away, love that, by the way, that state of mind of always providing value to your guests?
Mm-hmm.
Can you bring that into pre-shift? Can you help your entire team get on the same page with that mindset?
Oh, yeah, I think so.
What impact could that have to your restaurant?
I mean, just to be transparent, I have a pretty good crew. So I think they all do a really, really dynamite job of taking care of our guests. But I would say probably anything you can do to elevate that is going to help. There's never too much of a good thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. Andrew, thank you so much for joining me. I really, really appreciated the conversation. Thanks for letting me kind of poke and prod a little bit and just giving us a bunch of insight into so many different aspects of your business. For sure. It's incredible to see the success that you've had over 20 years in the industry, the challenges that you've been through, pandemic, recession, here we go again. Potentially, right? Again, just coming into a time of fear and uncertainty. And I hope that this kind of provided some clarity and focus for you as you go into your next shift.
Yeah, thank you. It's tonight, so I'll see what I can bring in today.
I love it. Well, let me know. I'd love to hear how it goes, and let's stay connected for sure. So thank you
Cool.
so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you again.
You bet. All right, everybody, that's going to do it for us this week. Please share this episode with anybody that you know that could benefit, and we will talk to you next week.